The Stoics believed that virtue is the greatest good, and that self-control and detachment from strong emotions and passions are key to living a good life. Stoicism encourages us to stop certain toxic habits that go against its principles of having self-control, not complaining, and not seeking fame or fortune. This video will explore some of the main toxic habits the Stoics warn us against, so we can all lead more virtuous, meaningful, and tranquil lives. Number 1. Don't be overheard complaining. The Stoics taught that we should endure adversity and challenges without complaint. Complaining was seen as a sign of weak self-control and an unproductive energy use. Rather than complaining about difficult situations, the Stoics believed we should focus on changing what we can control and accepting what we cannot. Complaining simply amplifies negativity without leading to constructive solutions. As Marcus Aurelius said, begin each day by telling yourself, today I shall be meeting with interference, ingratitude, insolence, disloyalty, ill will, and selfishness, all due to the offender's ignorance of what is good or evil. Expect challenges and do not waste time and tranquility lamenting over them. Reframe setbacks as opportunities for growth. View complainers with compassion rather than disdain. The Stoics realized that complaining often stems from entitlement, the feeling that life should be easier or go our way. This entitlement leads to endless frustration. We gain resilience and calmness by focusing on controlling our perceptions and actions. So be cautious not to complain idly to others. Avoid appearing as a victim. Don't dwell on what is outside your control. With virtue and wisdom, endure life's difficulties and maintain your poise and dignity. Number 2, don't boast about self-improvement. The Stoics believed in humility and discretion. One toxic habit they would warn against is boasting about your efforts in self-improvement. It's tempting to want recognition when you feel you've progressed in overcoming vices or developing virtues. However, calling attention to it often leads to vanity and ego. The act of boasting puts the focus on external validation rather than inner growth. According to the Stoics, the reward for improvement should come from living more wisely and with inner tranquility. The opinions of others don't impact your character. Boasting also risks not living up to your hype later on. It's better to keep a low profile and let your actions speak for themselves. Focus on self-improvement for its own sake, not for the applause. Be sincere in your efforts while expecting no recognition. Lead by quiet example rather than flashy proclamations. Progress happens gradually anyway, so have patience and keep perspective. Number 3, you don't need an opinion on everything. The Stoics believed it was important to form careful, justified opinions based on reason and facts. They cautioned against having thoughtless opinions that could be rash or polarizing. According to the Stoic philosopher Epictetus, we should avoid forming opinions about things beyond our control or understanding. There is no need for immediate opinion on every topic or issue. It's perfectly acceptable to say, I don't know, or I'm still thinking about it. The desire to have an opinion on everything may come from ego. We want to appear knowledgeable and in the know on all the latest topics, but Epictetus reminds us that it is wiser to acknowledge the limits of our knowledge. Having an open mind leaves room for us to continue learning and evolving our viewpoints. Jumping to conclusions or loudly expressing under-informed opinions can make us appear arrogant, closed-minded, or contentious. It can turn discussions into pointless arguments rather than thoughtful exchanges of ideas. The Stoics advise focusing our opinions on what is within our sphere of control, our values, judgments, and actions. For everything else, it is not necessary or wise to form strong opinions, especially without carefully considering the issue. We can save our judgment for matters and thoughtfully consider the rest. Number 4, don't seek external validation. The Stoics believe we should be internally driven in our motivations and actions, not dependent on seeking validation and approval from others. As Epictetus stated, if you depend too much on the opinions of others, you make yourself their slave. Seeking constant validation from others puts your well-being in the hands of things outside your control. The validation and approval of others can be fickle and fleeting. Rather than look outward for affirmation, the Stoics encourage looking inward and finding contentment from living virtuously. With wisdom, justice, courage, and moderation. Focus on your character and follow what you deem right, not what others praise. Be motivated by your values, not by winning others' admiration. Avoid flattery and reject vanity, as these make you enthralled by public opinion. True freedom comes from no longer needing the validation and recognition of others to feel accomplished and fulfilled. Number 5, don't indulge in luxuries. The Stoics preached living a simple life, free of excess and luxury. They saw the pursuit of luxury as detrimental to self-control and virtuous living. The Stoics saw indulging in luxuries like lavish food, expensive clothing, and decadent shelter as hedonistic. While it's pleasurable at the moment, luxury often leads to addiction and reliance on external goods for happiness. Stoics recommend only acquiring what you need to live a moderate, dignified life. Don't get caught up chasing possessions, comforts, or thrills. Luxury corrupts character by making you lose discipline and self-sufficiency. The Stoics ask us to distinguish between wants and needs. We need shelter, sustenance, and clothing. But do we need a mansion, gourmet meals, and designer brands? Probably not. By avoiding luxury, the Stoics believe we strengthen our self-control. Excess strains our ability to be satisfied with little and endure hardship. Luxury also attaches us to external things when virtue comes from within. Next time you crave something lavish, consider the Stoic view. Focus on needs, not wants, and derive happiness from your internal character, not external comforts. You may find you need far less than you imagined to live well. Number 6, don't worry about the future. The Stoics believed in living in the present moment. They saw no use in worrying about events that haven't happened yet or may never happen. As Marcus Aurelius said, do not disturb yourself by imagining your whole life. Let not your thoughts at once embrace all the various troubles which you may expect to befall you. Keep the mind restricted to the present. When worrying about the future, we miss out on the present. We distract ourselves from what we could be doing now. Worrying also puts us in a negative mindset and stresses us out unnecessarily. The Stoics would say to focus your thoughts on what you can control, your actions, values, and judgments. Leave the future to itself, as it is out of your control. Deal with challenges if and when they arise. There's no point tormenting yourself with hypothetical situations. Remain mentally anchored in the present. Number 7, don't fear death. The Stoics believed that fearing death is illogical, as death is inevitable for all living things. They saw death as a natural part of the life cycle, neither good nor bad. According to the Stoics, worrying about dying prevents us from fully embracing the present moment. Seneca said, rehearse death. To say this is to tell a person to rehearse his freedom. A person who has learned how to die has unlearned how to be enslaved. He meant we should reflect on our mortality often so that we may live more freely without fear of what is ultimately inevitable. Marcus Aurelius said, you could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. By constantly reminding ourselves that death could come at any moment, we realize how precious life is and are motivated to make the most of our time. This frees us to live fully without postponing things until someday. The Stoics weren't being morbid by thinking about death regularly. On the contrary, they believed it helped them live better. It's logical to accept the reality of death, and there's nothing worth fearing about returning to the state we were in before being born. Facing our mortality can motivate us to pursue our true values and find meaning rather than sweating the small stuff and wasting time. Living is what matters, not worrying about when life will end. Number 8, don't expect others to understand you. The Stoics realized that it was impossible to please everyone. They taught us that we don't need validation from others to feel content and confident. Stoics strive to be self-contained individuals, pursuing virtue for its own sake rather than to impress others. They know it's a fool's errand to constantly seek approval and understanding from those around us. As Epictetus said, man is troubled not by events, but by the meaning he gives them. The opinions of others are outside of our control. The Stoic sage does not concern himself with things outside of his control. He lives to better himself through reason, not to seek validation through the flawed perceptions of others. Trying to shape yourself to match the views of society leads to anxiety and dissatisfaction. The validation of others is fleeting, here today, gone tomorrow. Stoics find peace by looking inward and knowing their worth. The Stoic view is that we only need understanding from ourselves. The rest of the world is free to form their own opinions. We control our inner domain, not what goes on in the minds of others. Realizing this leaves us calm, focused, and free. In conclusion, the ancient Stoics emphasized cultivating inner peace and virtue over seeking outside approval or material success. They identified several toxic habits that disrupted tranquility and advised avoiding these behaviors. If you enjoyed this video, remember to subscribe, leave your comment, and share your insights. We look forward to hearing about your transformation journey. And remember, change starts with a single step. Thank you for watching.